Welcome to The Growth Shift, the podcast where we unlock the psychological and strategic blueprints of predictable growth. If you've built a successful business, you know the truth. Your expertise is high value, but your time is finite. The question is, how do you sustain that success without sacrificing your most valuable asset? We believe that the next level of success requires a strategic pivot, a fundamental shift that moves beyond the old ways. In every episode, we dive into the critical turning points of industry leaders and uncover how they're leveraging AI not as a shortcut, but as the strategic force for their next growth shift. Today, we dive in with a leader who is defining the future of their industry. This episode is brought to you by Valentix, your strategic growth partner. At Valentix, we believe that trust and authentic relationships are the only true currency in high-value business. We challenge the status quo by building an AI-powered client acquisition engine that enhances your human connection, helping you move beyond the slow growth of referrals. Our AI-powered systems eliminate the grind, allowing you to break through the noise, automate tasks, and free up your time to focus on transformative client impact. If you're ready to build a predictable growth engine, learn more at valentix.io. Now let's dive into today's episode. Today on The Growth Shift, we're joined by Christina Inge, the founder of Thoughtlight and a marketing consultant who has been shaping the industry since 2014. Christina's career is defined by strategic evolution, transitioning from a startup VP of marketing to building her own agency focused on customer-centered custom solutions. Now she's at the forefront of AI transformation, specializing in helping B2B tech companies revolutionize their content marketing and tech stacks. Her commitment to listening to customer needs and leveraging original research over fleeting trends will provide essential guidance for our audience. Christina, welcome to The Growth Shift.
Thank you for having me on, David.
It's a pleasure to have you on this morning. Christina, your career path, starting as a VP of marketing for a startup and leading you to found Thoughtlight in 2014, is rooted in a desire to run a more customer-centered agency. Can you share a little bit about your foundational experiences or principles from your corporate background and how they led you to where you are today?
Great question, David. I came up in marketing through two different periods of digital transformation. I graduated from college in 1998 when the dot-com bubble was in full. So I watched the transition from analog to digital, and I watched companies struggle with that. And then in the mid-2000s, I watched companies struggle with getting a strategy around social media. And alternating between the two extremes, in both cases, between thinking it's going to solve all of their go-to-market problems with no cost, no friction, no effort. I'm going to just post something to social media and I'll have 1 million customers by the end of the day, to thinking it's a flash in the pan or fearing it. And I saw that there's a lot of nervousness around digital transformation. I went through 2 cycles of that. And when I started Thoughtlight in 2014, there were still companies out there that didn't really have a good social media strategy. But overall, wherever we were in that hype cycle, I was acutely aware of the fact that companies don't know how to navigate digital. And so they either go all in or they fear it, drag their feet, only adopt when they need to. But the middle path was sadly lacking. So I started Thoughtlight to bring some rationality to the way organizations approach anything to do with marketing at all, not just digital marketing, although we've always been a primarily digital agency, by which I mean not expecting one channel or one approach to be the one-size-fits-all solution, but understanding that marketing is complex, it's evolving, it's led by market realities, and especially it's led by what customers need, and helping organizations understand that they need to look at their marketing holistically and not look for quick, easy solutions, but at the same time also look to gain traction in a reasonable time period. So don't look for quick solutions, but also don't think of marketing as just an unnecessary cost center. It's there to drive ROI. So the founding impetus for Thoughtlight was to help companies who want to be reasonable about their marketing. In other words, not looking for quick and easy, one channel, one magic ad solutions, but who understand and need guidance through that navigation in order to build a good marketing tech stack. So that was the founding impetus behind Thoughtlight.
Fantastic. You've been through a couple of digital transformations, and you've witnessed a lot happen. You mentioned a sort of anxiety that digital transformation has caused that you've noticed. What do you think is the root cause or the foundation of concern for companies when they're approaching digital transformations, such as the one we're in right now?
I think it's fear of change. It's fear of the unknown. Like all kinds of transformation, it's not knowing what the future holds. And I think that there's a lack of confidence in skill sets both on the individual level and the organizational level. People don't know if they're going to be good at AI. They don't know if they're going to learn how to use AI. And so there's a temptation when people lack confidence in their own ability to navigate technology to go in one of two directions. One is to look for guidance outside of themselves, and that's kind of where we come in. But as also a college professor of more than 10 years, I can tell you my job is never to give you the answers, to teach you how to find your answers. So it's not getting a consultant in to tell you exactly what to do and then expecting that to solve all your problems. It's getting a consultant in to help you, but then learning how to make that work for you. And we always work with an organization's internal capabilities, with their internal resources, rather than trying to give them one-size-fits-all bolt-on solutions. But that tendency to look for a simple formula that is externally driven is one thing people do when they are in a space of uncertainty and don't know how to deal with it. And the other thing is to simply dismiss the change out of hand. I'll never forget in 2007, I was working for a traditional publisher that I will not name. They're still in business. They've been in business for hundreds of years. And my boss at the time looked at me quite seriously with a big smile on her face and said, you know, people think this internet thing is going to change publishing, but I think it was really in style last year, but it's going out of style this year. And I see a lot of folks deciding that this AI thing is just glorified autocorrect and it's not going to make any difference for people. And so that there's either denial, but there's a third way. And that third way is to know, I don't know what I don't know, but I have the skills and capability to learn what I need to learn. And that willingness to learn, that faith in your own abilities, if you approach any kind of digital transformation with that as an individual, you're going to do just fine. And the same for organizations. Not trying to sweep it away, but not thinking that there's an easy answer, but approaching it with, we are here to learn, we are capable of learning, and we are going to learn. That's how companies win.
Couldn't agree more, right? From a personal and a business standpoint, the second you stop learning and stop growing, right? The second you start becoming irrelevant, the second you start dying, for lack of another term. You need to learn, grow, and evolve to keep up with the changing times or risk becoming irrelevant.
Absolutely.
So, Christina, your business, it sounds like, has been on a little bit of a growth evolution, right? Constantly changing and adapting with the times, staying up to market trends, and leading with what your customers need rather than chasing old trends. Can you elaborate a little bit on your philosophy and just your journey and perhaps some of the biggest impactful shifts or pivots that you've made through that time?
Thanks for asking that question, because I think it's so important that if you're in marketing and your job is to guide your clients through marketing transformation, you yourself have to be on top of what the marketing trends are. And so we, again, like I said, we call ourselves a digital marketing agency, but what that has meant over the years has varied by client. And so some people need us for social media. Some people need us for SEO. Some people need us to build an app for them. And others need a go-to-market strategy. But on the other hand, I have here on my desk a print piece that we created just recently for a client. Here's the rough draft of it. So if people need print design, we're going to do that for them as part of their digital strategy. One of the things that I've learned as an entrepreneur, though, is that you can't be a generalist, because if you are for everybody, then nobody knows why you're special and why they should work with you and not the cheaper place down the street. And so as digital has become the norm for everybody, we've evolved, because just calling yourself digital now doesn't make you any different from any other agency. And so we've had to find a niche within digital that is our sweet spot. We've really started to focus on CRM and marketing automation, mapping the entire customer journey based on data digitally. Now, we still do the creative work. We still actually do the creative parts of the marketing automation. So if we're mapping a customer journey where a specific customer receives ads, SMS, and email, as well as personalized landing pages, we're using data to figure out what that customer journey needs to look like, but we're also creating the ads, the email, and the social media. So we're doing the creative part. But what's really exciting is we're working on the data side of things. We're cleaning the customer data. We're ensuring that it's compliant, not just with GDPR and CCPA and all of the other alphabet soup of laws that are out there, but also with what customers want in terms of how they're targeted and how that personalization reaches them, so that it feels helpful rather than intrusive or creepy, which people are especially nervous about in the age of AI. So we have evolved truly to being a data-driven CRM agency. So if you want to map the whole customer journey, if you have a CRM and you don't know what you're doing with it and you know you're underutilizing its features, or let's say you don't even know where to start, or you've got your data is messy. Everybody's data is messy. Don't be embarrassed. Call us. We will help you figure out your data and what to do with it through automation.
Yeah, digital marketing is extremely powerful in itself, just for the ability to connect with people anywhere in the world at pretty well any time. But one of the true values is in the data, right? Really being able to track that customer journey from initial contacts to, hopefully become a client or a customer. So you're now focusing more on the CRM side of things to help companies refine and clean their data to use for more effective marketing. And as I understand it, your primary clients are in tech and CPG, right? Consumer packaged goods. You've told us a lot about your methodology and your thoughts when it comes to, approaching digital transformation. Can you share a little bit more with us about how does really you come and you help clients identify what changes they need to make, or, what trends they should be trying to lead rather than perhaps following the pack?
It really depends on the client. So very recently we worked with the Cadillac Michigan Convention and Visitors Bureau, to give you an example of one CRM project we did. And what they needed was better segmentation. They had a ton of data. They had HubSpot for their CRM, but they didn't know how to map that data to the right message at the right time to the right stakeholder. And they have both B2B and B2C stakeholders. So as a CVB, because again, we work with tech companies, but we also work with municipalities and higher education. They, as a CVB, a Convention and Visitors Bureau, they have stakeholders among the vendors in hospitality, hotels, resorts, but also consumers, actual tourists who are coming to the region and who want to know seasonally what's going on. They didn't have very clean data, however. They didn't know which email contact was necessarily a tourist who is interested in fall activities versus winter, which vendor is a provider of those fall or winter activities. So what we did is we helped them create clean data. We helped them clean up their data, create good customer segments, and then with that, figure out workflows, in other words, sequences of touch points along the customer journey, B2B and B2C, that allowed them to better engage their customers. And that was utterly transformative, from having a CRM that was wildly underutilized to having a CRM now that has high ROI. It's paying off for them. And that was just a great joy to be able to achieve for them. Another example is Brandeis University's Heller Graduate School, the Heller School for Social Policy and Management. They have a wonderful program every year on negotiating labor agreements. And they also have a multitude of customers. They have union representatives as well as people from management, and obviously a wide variety of sectors, from the service industry to clerical workers, represented big companies and small as well. So helping them just set up a CRM, which they had not had before. They had been batch and blast to tens of thousands of people. Some were union, some were management, different industries, helping them clean that data, do the audience segmentation, and then set up the CRM with the right messaging, personalization to the right people at the right time, That was a soup to nuts. We don't even have a CRM. We have a CRM and it's cracking along. And they filled all of their sessions in their negotiations program. They were very pleased with the results as well. It takes you to have the CRM set up right. First of all, have the right CRM, have clean data, and then figure out the customer journey that you need to map for your different audience segments, or even down to the individual personalization level, because personalization is so important in CRM. That can make the difference between selling out an event or having a record year, even in a tough economy, for your venue and not. So those are some of the triumphs that we really love to have at Thoughtlight.
Incredible. Christina, you're obviously very ROI driven, right? You are systems oriented, you have the data, and you work on processes as well to help your clients transform all of these for that ROI you mentioned. Would you be able to share with us some numbers that you've actually helped companies generate in terms of ROI with such a transformation?
Absolutely. Going back to the CPG space, we worked with a dinnerware company. I can't say the name, but you're going to see them in every store. If you go now into Macy's, Kohl's, even Harrods in London, you're going to see dinnerware that represents this firm and its designers. They were doing a social media push, had no sense of how to give you a concrete example, their meta advertising. We were able, with a very modest budget, because they wanted to walk before they could run, get a 400x ROI on sales and take them from zero traffic to their website to 13,000 visitors a month on a budget of between $3,000 and $5,000 a month.
That's an incredible transformation, and really shows the power of being able to use data effectively and connect those workflows to make things actually happen instead of perhaps just, posting some content and hoping something will happen as a result.
Exactly.
Christina, for clients that you've just mentioned, right, you've had a profound impact, an incredible impact. And a lot of our listeners are sitting here thinking, I just wish I could connect with clients like that myself. But we're in such a noisy and crowded market, right? Competition is high, and a lot of consultants rely on referrals for growth. It makes sense. You get great results.
Yes.
You earn trust. People want to send you their friends in their network to help do the same, right? In today's noisy market, with the lack of trust created potentially by a lot of AI content or automated outreach sequences that just create a lot of noise and add to the problem. What is it that you're identifying and witnessing at Thoughtlight when it comes to these market forces and how to break through?
It's a great question. I'm actually running an experiment right now because, like most consultants, I rely on word of mouth. I rely on referrals, and so we haven't really done a lot of marketing ourselves. Cobbler's children kind of phenomenon. So I've been running an experiment. I'm using an AI tool. I'm not going to call it out because I actually love the tool. It's called Blaze, and I used it to create content for us, but then didn't edit, just let the AI create some lovely content, and then I created organic content. In the sense that I wrote it and my lead designer created it using Canva. The organically created, posted directly to the platform content is getting 4 times the engagement than the auto-posted AI-generated content. Does that mean stop AI generating content? No, because there's no way you're going to be able to post every single day as a small business person, but just keep that as your background content and make sure that if a message really needs to get out there, have that be organic. I also want to say that there's variance because I've experimented also with AI generating content, but then not auto posting it. And I think to some extent it's the automated posting that suppresses your engagement, because AI generated content, but you post it as if it were organic, you copy paste it in there and you upload the image manually, still gets a little more engagement. But think about when you need to show up 100% organically versus when you need to just create something generic. Here in the United States, it's Thanksgiving week this week, and I liken it to when do you need to use stuffing mix versus making the side dishes yourself. If you're roasting the turkey, you're baking a pie, you know you're not terribly good at making stuffing, you're going to get that stuffing mix, or you're in a hurry. But does that mean everything you buy is going to be No. Think of what your specialty is. Mine is I make a really good pie, but I have people in my family who have allergies, so I may make something from a mix because I know it's going to be allergen free.
Mm.
So think about A, what do you most excel at? And B, what do the people you serve need from you? And if it's continuous, regular posting of efficient content, great infographics that summarize important information, you can automate that because there it's the information that matters. But sometimes you need to go fully organic, and it's a balance and it's a mix. I am not going to go out there and milk my own cows and churn my own butter. I'm going to go to the store. But am I going to bake a pie from scratch? Yes, I will. So think about the balance there. It's the same in every area of life, and we're going to adapt to it with AI. How many of us have recently, like I said, raised our own chickens and churned our own butter? We have not. But 150 years ago, most of us did. Does it now count as not cooking dinner that you went to the store and bought your ingredients? Of course not. That's still considered cooking. I think that the same is going to be true of AI. We're going to have more stuff that's going to be produced by AI, and we're going to decide what matters to do by hand, and the definition of organic is going to shift. But there will always be a balance. You need to start thinking of what that balance is going to be. And of course, there's still going to be controversy. Another sort of folksy analogy is I like to make quilts. I'm making a quilt right now for one of my teaching fellows who just had a baby. When quilt making was first revived in 1976 here in the United States, which is the year I was born, by the way, so it has I have a close relationship to it. Making a quilt using a sewing machine was considered taboo because you weren't sewing every stitch by hand. Now that would be laughable. And so we're going to evolve, and everyone's going to have their own opinion. You have to do what's right for your brand. The only thing that's going to tell you what's right for your brand is it driving ROI? Are people coming through to your website and converting? I've been posting using AI, and yeah, I get a little less engagement on the AI-driven posts, but I have quadrupled the number of leads I've generated since I started AI automating my social media. So that's kind of the punchline. It's getting less engagement, but it's getting me leads. So I do a little organic, a little AI. I'm getting the leads now. I'm no longer dependent on referrals. So thanks to Blaze, I'm now actually doing okay. And by the way, I'm not an affiliate. I have no reason to praise them other than it's gotten me leads, even though some of the numbers don't look as good as some of the other numbers, and that's my final point. Clicks, likes, great. They make you feel good, but if you're getting leads, that's the only metric that counts. Stop relying on vanity metrics because I think they're going to really mislead us in this AI world. Go back to basics. Go back to the ROI metrics.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, right? Especially when it comes to the leverage power with AI is great, but quality over quantity can't be overlooked. You've been looking at the analogy you used of, a farmer churning butter. You're going to buy that butter to make a pie, and I'll bet you that pie is going to be a lot tastier than if the farmer made butter and then also tried to specialize in making pies and provided a whole end solution. Whereas some people can do that, the quality will be lower. Maybe it's viewed as a form of stuffing. There is a time and a place, but especially when it comes to AI, if you're letting AI create content entirely for you, where's it getting that information, right? Where is it pulling that from? You don't know, and odds are it's pulling it from other AI generated content. So you can't count on quality and uniqueness purely investing fully in a result that is completely out of your hands. So I really love that, Christina. Yeah, focus on the leverage, use it, but you also need to keep in mind, where are you the best? Where can you provide an expertise beyond what a generalization can? So Christina, you're using some AI generated content, you're writing some yourself, you're getting more clicks, more likes, more views, more leads to your website. You're moving beyond that reliance on referrals, which of course has built a strong business, but it's not so scalable. Are you focusing entirely on creating content to drive leads to your website, or are you starting to try some other platforms as well? Have you found success in breaking through that noise with, what other people are looking at as well, LinkedIn outreach and email and all of the other more traditional channels?
I have. Our email list is still a really big driver of leads for us. I have a newsletter that I publish on LinkedIn, the Marketing Analytics and AI Digest, that has been growing by 40% every week. That is a driver for us. I am doing paid ads on LinkedIn, trying to branch out now into paid search, which we've done a lot of for clients, but it'll be only our third endeavor to do paid search. The last two times, to be totally frank, I don't think we were there yet. We were targeting a lower end of the market, and referrals were still the strongest for us. Content marketing is only as good right now, like you said, David, with all of the noise. Breaking through simply by generating content is not always easy. You do need to rely on the paid channels and the push channels. So for us, that is email, and that's becoming paid social, both LinkedIn and also moving into paid search as well. And
Incredible.
that to me is really important because organic SEO, as Neil Patel famously is telling us, 80% of organic search clicks are now gone, not coming back. So you cannot rely on just good SEO and geo generative engine optimization. That's an area where we're working very hard, but it's much more unpredictable. And the last thing you need as a business owner is to add unpredictability unnecessarily into your business.
Mm.
Paid is taking away that unpredictability. So too is email. And then finally, it is a form of content marketing, but speaking engagements, podcasts, going to conferences, events, those are a good driver. And so that's something that we want to leverage as well.
An excellent display of the power of diversification, right? You can't
Yes.
focus solely on one channel and expect it to be your be all and end all, even if it was once upon a time, whether it was SEO or whether it was organic content. But you need to be leveraging different things to cover the gaps that others perhaps won't all across.
Absolutely.
Any tips that you can give to our audience when it comes to the effectiveness of, paid ads or using email to break through that noise?
Well, I would say keep your email list clean. Make
Mm.
sure it's always updated. Segmentation is important. If you have a very tiny list, don't try to segment too much. But if you have a large list, try to segment. So, for instance, like I said, we serve higher education and municipalities in addition to the tech sector. They all have different interests. Don't try to send your higher education enrollment email marketing playbook out to your whole list. I know that this sounds obvious, but the number of organizations that don't know about segmentation at all still continues to shock me. The companies we work with know about segmentation. They just need help doing it. But I've encountered people who just don't even know how important it is to segment. The argument that I always hear is, well, shouldn't everybody hear about us? No, because they may not want to know about you. Like I said, I teach as well, and I have saved the worst review of my course because I built Harvard's AI marketing graduate certificate. I came up with the idea. I spoke to my superiors, and it took about a year to get the program approved. And so now I have the certificate. I teach it, I run it. It's AI in marketing, and it's a graduate certificate stackable towards a master's degree at Harvard University. I have won Harvard's Business Instructor in Continuing Education of the Year award one year. So when I get a bad review, I always notice it because it's atypical for me. And I once got one by somebody taking the course as their required marketing elective towards their business administration master's degree. One of the courses is called Marketing Analytics, Fundamentals of Data-Driven Marketing, and the review said, there's nothing interesting in this course if you don't like marketing. Indeed. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse does not try to appeal to vegans. You are not going to get couture at the local feed store, and you are not going to make your customers happy or even find your customers if you try to batch and blast. Not everybody loves everything. There are people who don't like Disney World. There are people who don't like Taylor Swift. There are people who don't like chocolate. If your product is not one of the most popular things on the planet, there's people who don't want to hear about you. So why are you trying to reach them? You're going to get low click-through rates. You're going to be paying more for your advertising, and it's going to hurt your advertiser reputation. You're going to be paying more for your ads if people are finding them irrelevant, if they're hiding them, if they're saying, I don't want to see this ad. Advertiser reputation is going to go down, and with the ad platforms, that means your costs are going to go up, and you're going to think advertising doesn't work. So segment, Understand your customers, have multiple customer personas, and use the data to understand who they are. Don't make assumptions. Talk to your customers, do surveys, maybe even use data enrichment to get more data points on your customers, but understand who your customers are and what they want from you, and then focus on finding those customers out there. So that's my number one tip to reaching your customers with high ROI, good budget efficiency, good return on ad spend.
And, using another analogy, if you're a hunter, you're never going to land a prize buck with a shotgun, right? You need a sniper approach to make sure you're hitting right on target and taking home the biggest prize.
Absolutely.
Christina, your insights into strategic evolution, customer-centered marketing, and the thoughtful use of AI are truly inspiring. To conclude, based on your philosophy of listening to customer needs and ensuring your business is always evolving, what's the single most important piece of advice that you'd offer to our audience who are striving to achieve sustainable growth and transform their business?
Stay flexible, but stay true to your core. Sounds contradictory, but a lot of startups go swinging from one extreme to another, and not just startups, but mostly it's companies that haven't found their rhythm yet and have not found their traction yet. They'll start by saying, I have this idea and I don't care if nobody wants it. I'm going to convince them to want it. No, you can't. You can't. Demand is never actually created. It's tapped into. People will use as an example the smartphone and say, well, nobody knew they needed a smartphone. No, but they needed a more convenient way to communicate with each other. I never liked the quote from Henry Ford saying that if I had asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, because the faster was the important part there. They needed a faster mode of transportation. So actually, if you ask your customers what they want and you can't interpret that, that's a you problem, not a them problem. Your customers can't imagine the solution, but they absolutely understand what their problem is. They know better than anybody. So if you're not solving a real customer problem, you're out of business. Listen to your customers and find out their problems. Just because they're not giving you the solution, that's because that's your job. Your job is to imagine the solution and keep iterating until the solution meets the needs of the customer. Fantastic. So that's my advice. But that said, when you're starting to gain traction, you're starting to see early signals, that's when you need to hold fast and not get swayed by every trend or every bad day. AI-driven audiences, for instance, they're much better at finding your target audience than you are at figuring out, even with psychographics and demographics, but there's a learning curve. It takes about 30 days for an AI-driven ad targeting to find your audience better than you can manually. Most people don't give it the 30 days. They're like, these ads aren't getting clicks. No, but they're learning who is clicking and who's not clicking, and soon the targeting will be better than you ever dreamt of. So give it that time. Once you know that something's going to work, give it time. Don't give up too early.
Thank you so much for sharing your insight and your perspectives with the audience today. For anyone who might like to learn more about what you're doing at Thoughtlight, what would be the best way to find you?
You can find us online at thoughtlight.net. That's THOUGHTLIGHT, thought as in thinking, light as in light bulb, and it's .net. You can also find me on LinkedIn. My name, Christina Inge, and I'm very interested in hearing from other people what they're doing right now with AI or anything you want to talk about. Lines open.
Thank you so much for joining us again on The Growth Shift.
Thank you so much, David. It's been a pleasure.
Another powerful conversation on The Growth Shift. If you, like our guests, are ready to turn your expertise into a predictable, scalable growth engine, one that eliminates the grind of prospecting and enhances your high-value relationships, then it's time to connect with Valentix. We are not a marketing agency. We are your strategic growth partner, building intelligent systems that ensure your client acquisition is predictable, not dependent on chance. To see how our AI-powered frameworks can free up your time and fill your calendar with decision makers, visit valentix.io. Thank you for joining us on The Growth Shift. We'll see you next time.